Hey, welcome back you guys. So today I wanted to share with you the best sander for sanding your skim coats. And I'm talking specifically here your finish skim coats. I don't think that there is any better sander than the Trimtex 540. And in order to explain why it's the best sander, we're gonna have to look at some of the other sanding options as well. Okay, first let's look at your traditional pole sander. So in my opinion, this is the best sander for sanding your first coat. You want something with a fairly firm pad underneath, and then you just want some plain sandpaper because this is really flat and firm, and it's gonna help level off your more bumpy first coat. So my first coat usually has lift-offs and things that need to be sanded down and floated out. But my second coat, my final coat, is almost always dead flat and smooth to the eye, but it actually has a bunch of small lift-offs and also the texture of mud, which needs to be sanded off to be ready to accept paint. So the reason that I think this one is so good is because it's one of the only tools I've ever found that actually does a near perfect dummy-proof job that you can put in just about anybody's hands. So one of the main things it does is it doesn't flip over. That's a nice feature, right? It's so big and broad. But the reason that this works so well is what we have is basically a sanding pad. It is a foam sanding pad, the exact same as the sanding sponges that you use, and it is also kind of like a foamy sponge material. So it doesn't matter which way you push this, whether you push it this way, whether you push it diagonally, it doesn't leave lines from sanding. So I can just start sanding. I don't even have to have a light. I don't have to think about anything. And it will leave a perfect scratch-free finish on my ceiling. So that's the reason I like it so much, is because I can just do the labor and not have to think about it. Whereas when you use one of these, even with a nice foam-backed sandpaper, if you run it totally straight like this, it will leave lines. It'll leave grooves in your finished work. So you have to run it very slightly diagonally, like 5 to 10 degrees diagonal to not get those lines. It also doesn't have as wide of a surface, so it takes longer to get the same result, and it's a little bit heavier. So that's another thing that I didn't mention about this, is that it is the lightest sanding pole that I have ever used. So the lightness is another huge benefit. And you may think, well, a heavier sander might actually knock down some of it a bit better. True, but when you spend 2 to 4 to 8 hours sanding a ceiling with your elbows up to your shoulders or higher, you will understand why you want the lightest sanding pole possible, because your shoulders burn and it does more damage than building them up. So that's one thing. A lot of people go, well, doesn't your work make you stronger? Not really, actually. It's so repetitive that it will break your body down. So you need to do as much as you can to minimize the pain that you go through so you don't get such bad repetitive strain injuries, because I definitely had those over the years. And I know there's gonna be some people saying, well, what about the Radius 360 sanders? So those have a big sanding head. First off, they are very heavy. And then the second thing is because they have a paper edge, so it's like a paper sanding pad, as soon as you hit something, those get a little wrinkled or dinged up or torn. And once you have a little tear there, it starts to leave big grooves in your finished surface. So that's one of the reasons I don't like them, because it's not dummy proof. You have to pay attention, you have to use a light, you have to always be checking your work to make sure that it doesn't have something that's going to be damaging your work. So again, this is the most dummy-proof sander I have ever used. And yeah, I highly recommend it. So that's the only reason I'm making this video, is because I know for anybody who's new to drywall, you want the easiest thing to possibly use. And in my opinion, that is this tool. So I will put a link in the video description for this. You don't have to buy it there, buy it from wherever you want. I will make a small commission off it if you use the Amazon link. I appreciate that, thank you. But if you want to go somewhere else, go to Al's Taping Tools. I'm not affiliated with them at all, and also you may have to go there just to get the sanding pads. So let's take a look at these. These sanding pads last forever. I bought these a couple years ago, and it's a pack of 6. I'm on the second one, and this is the medium grit. So it doesn't say what the actual number the grit is, but The medium grit has been good enough for sanding all-purpose light. That's what I always use to skim out ceilings, is all-purpose light compound. And the medium grit does a perfect job without scratching it. Anyways, you guys, that is, in my opinion, the best sander for sanding skim coats. I actually don't use this for sanding my first coat, so it is a bit of a one-trick pony in that department. I find it's too light. It's too light and it's not firm enough to actually level out any humps or big lift-offs left from tools. So that's one thing you should be aware of. If you're planning on buying only one sander, I wouldn't recommend this one. I would recommend one of these, both with paper for your first coat and then foam backed for your second coat, your finished sand. But if you are going to be doing any large skim coat jobs, whether you're skim coating walls or skim coating ceilings, you will thank me once you try one of these and see how much easier it is than some of the other sanding pools on the market. So anyways, that's it. Video's officially done. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching. And what do I always say at the end of my videos? Something like, I hope your project's going well, but I hope you're doing even better. I mean it. Till the next one.